Hello everyone and welcome to my summer social series. The mid-year summer checkpoint is a great time to reevaluate goals and for those of us who live where the sun is shining, a time to relax, rejuvenate and reflect upon where we are and where we want to go. The start of summer for me usually means a series of summer workshops working with both teachers and students, working with teachers to sort of really redefine what it means to teach and learn in the 21st century, and working with students on how to take advantage of opportunities when teachers aren't always perhaps providing them to the students. So ways to create digital portfolios, ways to curate learning, and ways to take advantage of the 2 to 3 devices that they often have in their pockets and backpacks. Time and time again, as workshops come to a close, I'm always asked the same question. How do you know what you know, and how do you keep up as things change so quickly? Well, this summer, I'm about to let you in on the answer and share a few secrets. The answer, get connected and get on social media. Why social media? There's lots of reasons to get connected, but I want to go ahead and highlight just one. This year, as I was watching the World Economic Forum at Davos, there was one thing in particular that was really intriguing, and that was the conversations that was centered on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So the Fourth Industrial Revolution is really meant to take advantage of all the possibilities now that billions of people are connected with their mobile device. These possibilities are going to be multiplied by the emerging technological breakthroughs that we often hear about and we're beginning to start to see come into play. These types of technologies include things such as artificial intelligence, 3D printing, autonomous vehicles, nanotechnology, the Internet of Things, robotics, and the list really sort of goes on and on. Now, what really sort of got me intrigued about this conversation was listening to all of these business, economic, and political leaders come together and talk about this as if it was already happening. Whereas I'm thinking back to schools and so many businesses and just people that I know who are struggling how to figure out even just using a simple device. Now, what was even more interesting about some of the conversations that took place at Davos was how they highlighted the skills that were going to be needed by people in 2020. Now, they take a look in the following chart at what's going on in 2015 and what's happening in 2020. And it's sort of just that, eye-opening look at where the world is going and how we as people need to be able to change and adapt to these different things that are emerging. So now these skills are really interesting because if you take a moment to sort of pause and reflect on your own individual situation, say for example you're a teacher, are you being able to prepare your students so that they leave really well qualified with the skill set that the forum has identified as being necessary by 2020? Now, where it gets even more interesting is what if you're a student graduating college and you've come out of a really traditional experience, or maybe you're a high school student and again you've come out of a really traditional experience. Are you ready to go out and enhance and develop these skills regardless of whether a teacher or a professor is going to be giving you those opportunities? How are you independently going to get out and seek out those different opportunities to be able to help you enhance and develop those skills so that you'll thrive in tomorrow's economy? And for those of us then that are out of the field of education and are in the world of business, how are you adapting the culture of your businesses, the culture of your workplaces to allow people that might not really have had much of an opportunity to dive into developing these skill sets to now be able to do so, ultimately to benefit your own business? Now, without a doubt, almost all of these scenarios require significant systematic change. They're definitely not things that can be done overnight. And what's really fantastic is we are definitely starting to see this type of change emerge, but it's emerging in pockets and in isolation. And what we really want to begin to explore is how do we begin moving from sort of change in isolation to systematic change across communities, especially on a local level. Because one of the things that we really sort of want to be able to do is bridge this divide between the people who are sort of growing up with more and more exposure to these different types of technologies versus people who may have grown up without them. And then the question that sort of comes is, okay, well, who are we going to rely on? Who's going to help us get there? Who's going to give us the directions for what it is we need to do? And the answer, unfortunately, is no one. One of the things we have to be able to do is independently sort of learn to learn and be able to navigate what these changes mean for us both personally and professionally. Now, in the physical world, we often engage in daily conversations with people in our field, but what's great about the world of social media is that we get to connect with people beyond our field, and we get to create these interdisciplinary learning networks that allow us to come together and have conversations about what change means, and more importantly, about how we're able to support one another. Now, remember, a lot of these changes are not limited to where we are locally. What happens locally, the decisions that we make on a local level really impact people on a global level. We are no longer just citizens of one individual area, but we must embrace our role as global citizens. Now, one of the things that I think is absolutely key about embracing your role as a global citizen is beginning with empathy. Beginning with empathy is really going to be the key, I believe, to how these conversations are going to play out, but more importantly, to the type of change it is that they're going to bring in terms of is it meaningful, but more importantly, is it going to be sustainable? When we begin with empathy, we get a better understanding of people's needs, their motivations, and their feelings. And it's really those conversations then that allow us to develop that meaningful and sustainable change. And what's great about a lot of those conversations is now we have so many places to be able to share what it is we're learning on all these different types of platforms brought to us now with this era of social media within which we live. As I so often like to remind myself, with all these different tools for communication that we now have available, why talk about others when we can talk with others? All right, so serious talk over. Now it's time to get the fun started. And really, creating and building communities in the cloud for so many has been such a life-changing experience, myself included. But what's really interesting is it's sort of one of those things that no matter how much you talk about it, no matter how much you tell people, it's sort of hard to understand until you actually dive in yourself. So now, while many of you may already be on Facebook and Instagram and be like, well, I don't want to join another social media platform, it's important to at least be aware of what's out there and what's possible through these different platforms. So in this summer social series, we're going to be taking a look at Snapchat, Twitter, and one of my new favorites, Blab. I hope that throughout the series, you'll be sharing your stories about what you're learning, what social media means to you, how you think you might be able to use it with all of us so that we can continue to learn and grow with one another. Once again, thank you so much for joining my summer social series. Tomorrow we will get started with Snapchat. Have a great day.